openness to learning, from going beyond what is comfortable, beyond what is convenient and customary, to move beyond the blockage of old habits and accept the challenges for change. Newness comes when we are willing to explore new dimensions and accept new perspectives. Then there is freshness and motivation in life. Otherwise, we remain stuck where we are. We feel pinned down to a life that becomes progressively meaningless. To initiate newness, first, let me plow the earth of my consciousness with an openness to learn. Then, according to my interest or need, let me sow the seed of a new thought, a new insight, a new aim. For example, the seed may be of seeing myself as a positive, confident person, or it may be the seed of creating a genuine cooperation with my work colleagues. Whatever the seed, let me plant it firmly within my consciousness and then water it with constant attention and let it receive the light of a positive attitude at all times. Gradually, the seed will grow. As it grows, its strength develops. And to keep developing the seed, attention and the positivity of my vision must be there. Otherwise, the insects will come. The insects of doubt, hesitation, and carelessness will eat it away. And I am left just with an empty hope, a dream which I cannot realize. With loving and faithful care, the seed grows and keeps growing till it flows throughout my being, filling it with the fruits of contentment, joy, and purpose. The flowing never stops, and it pours onto others, and they too experience a joy, a peace in my presence. And as the flow gathers in my mind and in my heart, then it flows from my eyes, from my face. There is a radiance of gentle, sacred light, like the light of an angel. A light that enables others to feel respected, loved, and it especially inspires them to also sow positive seeds within themselves and to become the same. This glow of inspiration helps others to achieve the best in themselves. This is the work of the angels. This is the newness that is required at this time.
Om Shanti. So we saw yesterday how the seed is so important, right? And every time we have a thought, it is a seed that will eventually come into action. And actions, you can say, as seeds that will be recorded on the soul in the form of sanskars, right? And as are the sanskars, accordingly, according to the recording that is present on the soul, we decide our destiny. We choose where we will go, what role we will play, right? Who will come in our contact and who will be in our connections, all of that. And so, what we saw yesterday was the cycle, the world drama, as we said, and it is mainly my story, right? It is the journey of I, the soul, through the cosmic cycle of time, right? Cosmic time cycle. And today we will see the same thing, but in a little bit different way. And it is called sort of like journey of all the souls, right? So cycle is more about me, I, the soul. And what we will look at today is the tree of humanity, which is more about all of us together. And so just as in a physical tree, you can see that the seed, the roots, the trunk, the branches, the leaves, the twigs, all of them are connected together, right? And so similarly, we will see in today's lesson how in this tree of humanity, we all are interconnected together to be one human family. And you must have sometimes seen family trees, right? And when you draw family trees, you understand where your roots lie and who your ancestors are, right? So similarly, we will look at this tree today, and it will give us a perspective of where our roots lie, who our ancestors are. So it'll give us a little broader picture. So now if you look at the tree, then the first immediate question comes is, who is the seed of this tree of humanity? Right? So if this is the tree of humanity, then who is the seed of this tree of humanity? And a seed usually is the one that is essential, right? It has the story of the entire tree. It has the DNA of the entire tree. And so we understand, according to our knowledge, that the seed is the supreme soul. God is the seed, and he has the entire knowledge of the tree of humanity. He understands, how the creation comes about and how it is sustained and how it is transformed. And then if you look at the tree, usually the seed is not seen, right? One could never think that the seed is the one where the tree is drawing all the energy from. And because the seed is invisible, the seed is incognito, right? No one can see it, it's underground. And so similarly, Shiv Baba is not seen, right? He's invisible, you can't see him. And so in that sense, we also understand that not much of the world will know about the seed of the tree of humanity. And then when the seed is planted and it starts to grow, the first thing that comes out of the seed is a little shoot emerges, and which becomes into a trunk, right? And these four colors that you see here, right, they represent the four ages that we saw yesterday: the golden age, the silver age, the copper age, and the iron age, right? And the trunk here represents unity, represents oneness, right? Represents complete harmony. So this is the time on earth when there is complete purity, prosperity, and happiness, right? There's health, wealth, and happiness. And this is the time when there is one religion, one kingdom, one language, one culture. Everything is one, everything is united. It's one human family. And when I say one religion, basically it is the religion of divinity. Religion itself in Hindi means dharma, right? And dharma means the way of life. So being divine is the way of life. And so sometimes in Hindi, it's also called as Sanatan, which is also known as deity religion, right? Because the human beings here are not just human beings. They are human beings who have divine characteristics, divine virtues, divine powers. And so that's why it is also referred to as the trunk is referred to as the time when there is deity religion on the planet. And then you see, as the trunk grows, a time comes when branches appear, right? And so we saw yesterday that when we are at the end of the Silver Age, we have kind of lost the awareness of who I am. And as we enter into Copper Age, I have completely become slave to my senses, right? The soul precipitates into body consciousness. And there is imbalance, there is disharmony, there is no unity, there is duality which comes. And so branching out is basically sign of that duality now. So there's no oneness anymore. But now there are more branches coming out of the tree. That means there are more opinions, more languages, more cultures, more traditions, right? And so all of this explains that what is happening at this time in the Copper Age is that there is search for truth. It is for the first time that the soul experiences sorrow, right? It is for the first time that the soul feels unhappy. And so it begins to search for the memory of the one who brought them the inheritance of happiness, right? Who brought them the inheritance of peace. And Copper Age is also the time when the pure souls, the prophet souls, or the souls that we call as the founders of the religion, they start to come directly from the soul world. They enter on the planet, not just to establish their religion, but also to support the planet. Right? They bring God's message, they bring God's teachings so that the planet can be sustained, the human consciousness can be uplifted once again. And so what happens here is that as we go into the Copper Age, the first religion is established by Abraham, right? And Judaism is established in the first place, which is approximately 500 before Common Era, 500 years before Common Era. And his message basically is the divine law of one God. Right? He says that God is one. And the scripture is called Torah, or the Old Testament. And then we can see now that even within this religion, there are 4 colors, right? So that means the religion also, when it starts, it's very pure, it's very elevated, it is in its most divine form. And then the religion also goes through its Silver Age, Copper Age, and Iron Age. And at the same time, after like around 250 years before Common Era, comes in Buddha, right? And Buddha establishes Buddhism, and the main teaching of Buddha is non-violence, compassion. He teaches that have less desires or no desires, right? And he talks about the 4 noble truths, and the scripture is called as Dhamma. And then as we go further, we see that Christ comes. Christ establishes Christian religion, and his teaching is mainly that God is love, God is light, right? And the scripture is the New Testament of Bible. And then comes the is Shankaracharya, right? Shankaracharya comes and establishes the religion of renunciation, right? Sannyas dharma. And his main theme or main teaching is that only through devotion can we reach salvation, right? And so he believes, he brings this idea that God is omnipresent. And the scriptures are Vedas and Upanishads and Gita, right? All of those. And so what we see here is that all of these religious leaders who come, or the founders who come, we understand that truth is not exclusive to any one religion, right? They all are sharing pretty much similar kind of truth, right? And they all have the same intention to bring back balance, to bring peace, happiness, joy, and love for the humankind in the human consciousness. And so that's what they're trying to teach. But then as we come towards the end of the Copper Age, we see that not just the initial religion of the deity has been gone through so much changes, but also these religions have gone through their own changes. So within the religion, there is duality between the opinions. There is the opinions don't match, and so then there is more sub groups that are formed, right? And as we go further, we see that Muhammad comes, right? And Muhammad comes and establishes the Islam religion. And his main teaching is surrender to one God, Allah, right? He says, surrender yourself to him. And the scripture is called as Quran. And then we also see that towards the end of Iron Age or beginning of Iron Age, Guru Nanak Sahib comes, right? And then he again teaches that God is one, Ek Omkar, right? And the scripture is called as Guru Granth Sahib. So, what is happening to the deity religion? You might ask this question, right? And what we understand is that at this time, when the soul has entered into body consciousness, the deities are not able to call themselves deity anymore. And therefore, they start to look at each other as just ordinary human beings. And there is no more that deity religion, but the remnants of the religion, the memories of the religion are there. And it is called as Hinduism or Hindu because of the place where they are staying, right? And they're staying in Hindustan. And so that's why they begin to call themselves as Hindu, because they lose the awareness that they were these divine beings. And what happens is the first thing, the first memory of them is the remembrance of the light, right? God being light. And so what they do is that they create, they place a diamond, like a huge diamond in the form of an oval shape or an egg shape in the temple. And light radiates through that diamond, and they worship that as the first memory of God, which we understand today is called as Somnath Temple, right? And then, of course, eventually, as they go up, as they go down deeper into the corporate, they begin to remember and have memories of these deities, and the images are created, the idols are created, and they begin to now worship the deities. And as Iron Age comes, then the confusion in the spiritual realm has extended to such an extent that they begin to worship even the five elements. There are natural calamities, there are floods, there are earthquakes. So they feel, oh, we have to give reverence to and regard to these elements. These elements are also like gods and goddesses. So we have to, worship them. And so the worship of nature and five elements begins at the beginning of the Iron Age. And this irreligiousness increases to an extent that now they also begin to worship human beings in the forms of gurus or priests, right? Or anybody they think is of reverence, they will start worshiping them. And eventually they also start worshiping stones, right? So anything and everything, basically. So this is the time when the irreligiousness is at its peak, corruption is at its peak, life is full of sorrow and suffering, and there are natural calamities and diseases and illnesses that also increase, which all of them lead to the reason for being in sorrow and suffering of the humanity. And you can also see that as the tree grows, and now there are these twigs and little tiny branches, and these represent the different sects and cults and societies and all the isms, right? Like Sikhism or Jainism, all these isms, these are formed. So because now I don't even agree with what my community is saying, so I'm going to form my own community. I'm going to form my own samaj, So like that, people start to form small, their individual groups and own cultures and own traditions. And so this actually, when the tree reaches at this stage, it really tells that now it is time to add in some energy, right? The tree has reached its complete full capacity or full potential. And so decay sets in. And when the decay sets in, basically you have to plant in new sapling, right? And so the question is, who would plant the new sapling? Right? So if the tree has reached its maximum potential, what has happened is all the other religions are there except for the trunk. Sort of like banyan tree, if you can imagine, right? The banyan tree, when it grows to its maximum potential, you can see all the branches and all the leaves, but you don't see the trunk. You don't realize what is the trunk. And so entangled mass of religion, of languages, of people and opinions and ideologies, all of that exists. So there's a lot of confusion, lot of no clarity as such where to go and what to do. And so it is at this time that God enters the cycle, right? And it is only God who can actually add or plant a new sapling of new religion. And how he does it is basically he invokes us, right? We as God's children, we draw upon the nourishment from the knowledge that he shares, the powers that he shares, the virtues that he shares, and we transform ourselves. And that leads to the transformation of the old world and establishment of the new world, right? And just the identity of me being a soul, right, and therefore connected to each one as a soul, brings all of us back together, that one identity. And so if you see here, you can realize that we all are connected, right? The seed, the trunk, the branches, we all are connected. It doesn't matter where we are in this tree at this moment in time, but we understand that the tree has reached its maximum potential. And so I need to be in that list, right, where I am playing some role in the task of establishment. And so I'm just remembering one story of this man. Probably some of you must have heard. There's this man who sets himself on a long journey. And after a few months, after a really long journey, he reaches a place and he's very tired, and he actually lands up into heaven, but he does not know that this is heaven, right? And then he thinks, oh, I'm tired, I wish I could rest. And immediately a tree appears and there is nice soft grass there, so he goes and lies there. So he lays there and rests. And then he thinks, oh, I am hungry, I wish I can eat this. And whatever items of food he thinks, all of that appear in front of him, and he eats the food. And then he thinks, oh, I'm feeling thirsty now, I wish I can have some water. And water appears and he drinks water. And then he thinks, oh, what's happening? Whatever I am wishing, it's coming true. There must be a ghost on this tree. And so he looks up, and sure, there is a ghost on the tree. And so he says, oh, he's going to attack me. And the ghost attacks him. And then he thinks, oh, he's going to kill me and I'm going to die. And sure enough, he dies. It's a weird story, right? But the story actually tells us the story belongs to this time, the time of Confluence Age, right? The story actually tells us something about the what is remembered on the path of devotion as the wish-fulfilling tree, right? So this tree is also called as kalpa tree, kalpa vruksh, that under which if you sit, all your wishes will be fulfilled. And in reality, there is no such tree, right, under which I will sit. And people would leave all their jobs and try to find that tree, right? But there is no such tree in reality. But it is this tree of humanity under which, if I sit connected to the seed in the roots, right? If I sit here in the roots are the ones that actually help in the task of establishment, right? And so if I sit there, then all my wishes will come true. But again, this story also tells us another perspective, that how and what am I focusing my thoughts on, right? And so every time I create a thought, I have an opportunity either to be influenced by what I am seeing on the outside, or I infuse myself with so much spiritual power that nothing of this world can affect me, right? And so, say for example, we understand this virus situation is going on everywhere, right? And everyone is affected. But if I think, oh my God, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to do, I'm just stuck and I'm scared. So basically, what we did is we created thought of doubt and fear. And the energy of the thought which has doubt and fear is basically the one that will weaken your soul, right? But on the other hand, if I say, okay, I understand that it's not going to be that easy, but I'm going to try my best. I think I can do it. I can walk myself through this time and I will be fine. So immediately, this attitude, these thoughts, what happens is everything starts working for you. Right people will come in your connection, right skills will be given to you, right help will come, whatever cooperation you need. So basically, things will start working out. When you have positive attitude, then that's what you will attract, right? And things will go fine. So the question is, I have to infuse myself with the spiritual powers, right? And how do I do that? And of course, we've seen many methods throughout all the lessons that we did. But today we will also talk about the 8 spiritual powers. By the way, do you have any questions about the tree of humanity? Is it clear? It's clear what we talked about in the tree of humanity. You can unmute them.
Sister,
Yeah.
this tree of humanity which is growing, we have come from the golden age into the iron age. All the good things were down there in the seed, and the iron age, the problems arose. Is my connection okay?
Yes.
Huh.
Yes.
So all the good things were there in the seed, and we came to the iron age. But hopefully, if the reverse situation was there, the golden age is going upward and the iron age was down, maybe we would have been better off.
But when the tree is growing, right? Initially, it's strong, right? It has a lot of potential. And as the tree grows, eventually a time will come when the tree is, it is done growing. It will fall one time, right? It has to fall. The tree has to fall. And so what
Hmm.
it tells is that when there is iron age, right?
Yeah.
There is too much now, and the tree cannot handle the governance, the religion, the society, the individuals. Everyone have tried, but nobody has the power to sustain it anymore. And so it has to fall, but before it falls, God comes and plants a sapling so that the journey can continue. So that's what
Oh,
it is. But also one more thing,
yeah.
uh, it's not that only the trunk is where there is unity and happiness. Every time a new religion comes, there is happiness there. There is purity in that religion. There is power in that religion. Because remember that this soul, the soul of Buddha or the soul of Christ, it is pure. It is coming directly from the soul world because it is like a messenger of God and it has to establish this religion. So the initial time of that religion is very powerful, very pure.
Okay.
And then eventually every religion has to go through their golden, silver, copper, and iron age. Basically, these ages also tell you the state of the consciousness, right? I didn't mention the words exactly, but in Hindi, in golden age, we say that the state of the consciousness is sato pradhan. That means most elevated. And then silver age, it is sato. That means it's still elevated, but it's not most elevated. And then in copper age, it is rajo pradhan. That means it is slightly degraded. And in iron age, it is tamo pradhan. That means it's completely degraded, right? And so every religion has that time when it is in their Sato Pradhan state, then Sato, and then Rajo, and then Tamo Pradhan, right? So every time a soul comes from the soul world, it is pure. And because of its purity, it will experience peace and happiness and joy. It will have a lot of, name, fame, wealth, whatever way you can think of as happiness. It will have all of that. But eventually, it will experience all the four stages. Everyone has to experience all the four stages.
Okay, got it. Yeah, yeah.
Any other question? Okay, so we'll talk about the powers then. So we said that if I want to play a role in the task of establishment and become God's helper or become, like the meditation commentary was talking about being angels, right? Angels are the ones who are bringing light and hope in the world. So if I want to play any such kind of role, then I need to infuse my soul with the spiritual powers. And of course, there are many powers, but in spirituality, we understand that there are eight main master spiritual powers, right? And if I can gain mastery over these spiritual powers, these eight master powers, then I can invite many other powers automatically. I don't have to make effort for each one of them. And the first one here is the power to withdraw. And it is represented here by this turtle or tortoise. And what is the speciality of the tortoise? Do you know? What is the speciality of the tortoise?
Head.
Huh?
He can pop out his head and keep his head inside.
Yes, yes. So as soon as the tortoise senses some danger, it will immediately pull back his senses, right? It will pull back its head, limbs, and all of it and become like a hard shell. And there is a saying, I don't know how much there is truth in this, but there is a saying that when it is in the form of a shell, even if an elephant walks over it, nothing will happen to it. There is so much power when the turtle is in an introverted state. That is called as introversion. And it is a mechanism of safety for the tortoise, right? So, what it tells me is that whenever I sense any danger, so whenever I sense that somebody is angry or, somebody is under going through ego or whatever, I immediately withdraw myself. I immediately become detached, go inside, and take care of my thoughts that I don't want to create any more negative or bad thoughts about that person, right? And so, power to withdraw is also called as power of detachment. And the more I can practice detachment, the more it will be my mechanism of protecting my own self. There is an example of bird and ant also. The way bird sees, it's like an helicopter view. It sees the bigger picture and it can realize what's happening down below. But when an ant sees, the ant only sees what is in front of it, right? It has a very limited perspective. And so when I am in the situation, when I am in the whatever is happening around me, the circumstance, I might not be able to see other person's perspective. And that will create, me to focus only on the negative, and therefore I might become very reactive in nature. But if I withdraw and become detached observer and I view the whole picture from different perspective, then it might give me an idea that okay, this person said this because they felt this. So you give them benefit of doubt, when you are detached observer, when you are observing as a third person. And so that's what power to withdraw is. So anytime you find yourself reacting to a situation or reacting to a person, you should think that you don't have enough of power to withdraw, right? Or power to be introverted or be detached, right? And the second one is power to pack up, which is shown here in the form of the suitcase and luggage, right? And usually when we travel, we like to travel light. I sometimes, when I see 2 bags and 3 bags, some people are struggling at the airport. You feel sorry for them, right? You feel, oh God, I should help. So it's like when I want to pack up as a soul, I understand what I can carry with me. Right? I cannot carry this body. I cannot carry bodily relations. I cannot carry my possessions. So what can I carry? I can carry my thoughts, right? I can carry my sanskars. And so I have to take care of what is there in my suitcase. Even if I use everything that is in my house and I like everything that is in my house, if I have to go somewhere, I cannot carry my house with me, right? I carry only that which is essential. So, power to pack up tells us really you have to think what is essential to you as a soul. And anytime you find a thought which is not required, you tell it out. I don't have space for you. Anytime you see a sanskar coming up that's not useful, you tell it out. I don't have space for you. So you try to see what you want to put in your suitcase. And what helps here is the attitude of putting a full stop. Even if something happened 1 hour ago or half an hour ago, you put a full stop and start a new line, start a new chapter, right? So putting a full stop really helps to increase the power to pack up. Yeah. And if we don't have this power, then usually we can see that there is a lot of waste thoughts. There is increase in waste thoughts, right? And waste thoughts, if you increase, there will be tiredness. The third thing here, the third power is power to tolerate. And it is shown here that there is a tree which is tolerating the storms, rains, and whatnot, right? And so there is a saying that only that which has fruit will get stones. There sometimes they show a picture where a little child is throwing a stone at a tree and the tree gives the fruit, right, in return. If you throw a stone to the mango tree will give you mango fruit in return, right? And so even if people are throwing stones at you, even if people are talking negative about you, even if people are saying something in anger, still you try to understand them. You want to see what you can give them. So whatever you are made up of, that's what you will give. So there's a saying again that how much ever you squeeze an orange, only orange juice will come out of it, right? So how much ever people try to test you, whatever you are made up of, that is going to come out. So if people are testing you, they are troubling you, whatever. But if I am loving, then I will only give love, right? So that is power to tolerate. Power to tolerate is also called as power of love. The more I have love, the more I will be able to tolerate. Imagine a mother who has to tolerate her child, right? I mean, the child does so much nuisance sometimes, creates an havoc, right? Sometimes, but the mother doesn't even complain. She's very happy to take care of that child. It's only because of her power of love. The love allows her to accept the child as is, right? And so that is the beauty about having more love. Now, whenever you lack this power, then what is the vice you will see? Anger, right? Anger is present in absence of power of tolerance. So then the next one is here, power to accommodate, right? And what is shown here is basically ocean. But if you know, then rivers merge into ocean, right? And whenever a river merges into the ocean, whatever the river has on its banks, whatever garbage, trash, dirt, it all brings with it and dumps it into the ocean. The ocean never says, oh, I'm not going to take water from you. Your water is dirty. You have a lot of garbage, right? No, the ocean takes everything in. But then the ocean is smart enough, it is going to throw back on the shores, right? Not going to put it deep in the ocean. And so that is the attitude of the person who has the power of accommodation, that I will listen to you, I will understand what you're saying, but I'm not going to absorb it into my being, right? So that is power of accommodation. You can listen, you can understand, but you're not going to take it inside. So, for example, if somebody comes and tells you about a weakness of someone else, you might listen, but you will not buy into it. Like, you will not make it your perspective as well, right? So that is accommodating somebody's weakness you saw, and but you're not going to now go and tell to 10 other people, right? So again, I would like to give the example of mothers. You know, mothers have all these powers, right? Seems like, if you see a mother, and if there are five mothers sitting together, right, the mother actually knows the weaknesses and the drawbacks of her child, right? What are the problems and what are good qualities and what are not so good qualities. But she will never tell about those bad qualities in front of the four other mothers, right? She knows them, but she's not going to tell it to others. So that is power of accommodation. Only mother can take, understand the weaknesses of the child and then keep it in her stomach, right? And so similarly, if I get to know some weakness of my friend or some, mistake that they made, so if I keep it to myself, that is power of accommodation. Of course, unless you want advice or that is a different situation. But otherwise, you keep it to yourself. That is power of accommodation. Now, if you don't accommodate, usually it leads to jealousy. Absence of accommodation is, there will be jealousy, right? There will be a lot of desires. And then the next one is power to discern. So the imitation jewelry versus the real jewelry, right? What is artificial, what is real, what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. So I can discern, and for this I need clarity of my intellect, right? It is one of the powers of the intellect that you have discerning capacity. And suppose you say, oh, I crossed the line of code of conduct to help somebody else, right? You wanted to help somebody, but you crossed your code of conduct. Example of Sita they give, when Sita crossed the Lakshman Rekha, the line of code of conduct, but she did it because she wanted to help the sadhu, right? She wanted to give him whatever she had. And so that was her helping attitude. But then you cannot say this excuse that I wanted to help and that's why I crossed the line of code of conduct, because that is going to lead to deceivement. You will be deceived, So I don't want to lose whatever my maryadas are, or whatever my principles are, or whatever my value system is. I want to be within that and then help somebody else, right? So that is power to discern. You can see clearly what is good and what is not good, right? If you don't have this power, there will be deceivement. You will be deceived, right? That's the thing. And then the next one is power to decide. And power to decide can increase when you are not influenced by any person, any situation, or any possession that you have. The moment you're influenced or affected by them, your decision would be biased, right? It will not be right decision. And for power to decide, you need to see the long term and short term consequence of that decision, right? You need to understand the bigger picture. Yes, you have to be lawful, but at the same time, you also have to be loveful, right? So there has to be a balance when you are thinking about this power to discern, that how is it going to affect to me as an individual, and how is it going to affect me as a family. So you have to think about yourself, but also about your connections that you have when you exert this power to decide, right? And again, power to decide comes when there is a lot of concentration power and when there is stability. If there's any kind of fluctuation, right? If there's any kind of affect, when you're affected by others, then this power does not work very well, right? And when you don't have this power, then you will also have a lot of ego. So absence of this power brings in a lot of ego. I am right, what I think is good. So when you have ego, then it is very hard to learn and to make right decisions. Your intellect is completely locked. And then there is this power to face. And people usually ask that, how do you know when to tolerate and when to face? Right? Because they seem opposite to each other. And usually today in relationships, when people should use the power to tolerate, they use power to face. And when they should use power to face, they end up using power to tolerate. And that's why there is all this ups and downs, right? So we understand that power to tolerate should be used against people's sanskars, you know, because you can't change them. You can't change people's sanskars, so you kind of you should tolerate that. You understand that, okay, this person is like that, I'm going to adjust myself. Whereas power to face is against the situations or the circumstances that life brings in front of you. Usually when you have to stand for your self-respect, when you have to talk about your principles, then you have to use power to face, right? And what you need to have this power is faith and courage. Courage that I can do it, I have the faith in God and I have his powers and I can face this situation. For example, if there is death in the family or if there is some loss in the business, then you need power to face, right? And when you don't have this power to face, then there is fear, right? There's fear and there is a lot of desires, right? All of those are there. And the last one is the power to cooperate. And again, for power to cooperate, you need a lot of understanding, and love for each other and caring attitude. And you need generous heart also. Big heart, you will be able to help much more easily and freely. Power to cooperate is also shows us that if you don't have this, then usually there is hatred and animosity. Okay? So because I hate you and so I don't want to help you, I'm angry with you and I'm not going to help you. It's like that. And people have seen, right, with cooperation, when there is unity, then impossible task gets possible. Right? Impossible becomes possible. What I cannot achieve alone, I can achieve with the help of everyone. So that's why it's a very important power as well, power to cooperate. So those are the 8 powers. And the children, we, the souls, as God's children, when we decide, when we understand that I belong to God and I'm willing to help and willing to cooperate in this task, then I connect with him and I absorb all these powers from him, right? I fill myself with these powers and therefore I change my sanskars, I transform myself, and self-transformation brings about world transformation. But all of this we are doing in an incognito way, right? We are not going out and saying, oh, I am self-transforming myself, So that's why the children who help in this task are placed in the roots of the tree, right? So which we saw in the beginning, the roots of the tree here, that's where we are present, that the roots actually represent the conference age. And the roots is the place where we sit, we do yoga, or our wishes are fulfilled. If we create good thoughts, we bring new world back again on the planet. And this is true of humanity, right? So we understand that our ancestors were pure, our ancestors were elevated, and when we sit in the roots, we are very close to the seed, right? So in your meditation, how this knowledge helps is whenever you think of the tree of humanity, it does not matter where you are today, but you imagine yourself to be so close to the seed that automatically you find a place in the roots of the tree. And when you are in the roots of the tree, you become the support for the entire tree. You become the source of support and the source of upliftment of the entire tree of humanity. And when you create good thoughts, when you create powerful thoughts, then the vibration of those thoughts as nourishment through the roots goes through the trunk and the entire tree, and every leaf, every branch receives the vibration of it, right? You don't have to individually water this leaf. Suppose this is your family, for example. Just for example, okay? You could be here. But if this is your family, so it's not that I take care of my father, then I take care of my mother, then I take care of my sister, then I take care of my brother, then I take care of my husband, then I take care of my kids. No, you don't have to do like that. That's hard work. You just sit with the seed and you give the water to the entire tree. You just sit here and you will have connection with all of them. You don't have to have just connection with one family, right? And that's how you can be source of upliftment for the entire humanity. And that's how we can use this knowledge in our meditation. Okay. I don't know if you have any questions. Is somebody trying to say something? Maybe I should stop the sharing. Yeah. Anyone wants to say something?
Chat box.
There is no question. Oh, there is. I don't know. This feeling of guilt. Okay, I don't think you need to be guilty, because what we understand, what Baba says, is that the moment you realize that you made a mistake, what you should do is you should go to Baba and tell him that unknowingly, unintentionally, I have made this mistake and I ask for forgiveness. I am sorry. And if you do that with honesty, with pure heart, with cleanliness inside, and genuinely, right, then Baba will forgive. You will get the power to forgive yourself also. But yeah, too much time if you spend in repentance, it goes in the category of waste thoughts, waste time, waste thoughts, waste energy. So repentance is good, but only as soon as you have the realization, you should stop repenting. Why I did this, why I did this, it's not worth it. One time, a sister had made some mistake and she didn't realize. And then the senior here, she reminded of her and she thought that this is not right. And then this sister actually realized that I made a mistake, and she just kept on crying. And then what afterwards was reminded to her, okay, you understand, you realize that you made a mistake, but you also have the knowledge that drama is accurate, right? That everything that is happening in the world cycle, right? Yesterday we saw every scene is accurate, because I can see only this much part of the movie, right? I came in the middle, I can see only this much part. So I judge with that limited vision. But somebody who's watching the whole movie, the director of that movie knows why he made that movie, right? Why the villain has to say what he says, or why the villain has to do what he does, right? It is important for the movie or the drama to roll further ahead, right? And so God is the director of this whole drama. We saw yesterday that everyone has a role, and so even if some scene has already happened, I've made some mistake, it's past, I should let it go, put a full stop. And I have to ask myself, what can I do now? Right? That's the most important question. What can I do now? What is going to serve me the best in this moment? Or the other soul for that matter. What can I do to help them, if you need to help them? But that's the main thing, that you have to help yourself first by freeing of this guilt. And you can free yourself by opening your heart to Baba, right? You can write a letter, or you can write in a journal. There are many ways you can do that. But yeah, don't go into this guilt too much. Anyone else? You have a question? Yes, brother. Yes. Can you
Yeah. I had a question regarding the power of tolerate and power to face. What you told us now, power to tolerate means just the old sanskars we have to tolerate of the person. And power to face means the situation, how to demarcate, how to identify it, when we have to tolerate and when we have to face. Because it seems like it should not be a thin margin, no? We must be in position to identify where to face and where to tolerate. So can you elaborate it?
But that is discerning power, right? But a very easy way is also to know that in relationships, usually majority of the times, you have to use the power of tolerance or power of love, right? When you love your parents, then you are okay to let them, your sanskars won't affect you so much. Or if there is love for your friends, then their sanskars won't disturb you so much. So usually in relationships, we say that we should tolerate. And then usually when it comes to my self-respect, right? When it comes to my principles, for example, your code of conduct or your value system, if somebody says something against that, or situations is very easy to understand, right? So
in that relation doesn't matter.
Hmm?
In that case, relation will not come in between when it with my principles. No, in that case,
so
even
example,
that will not matter.
Yes, it will not matter because, for example, I'm an employee and I have to work. And if my employer tells me to do something that is against my self respect, I have the right to say no. And if I said no, but something happens and he's not ready, then I can face up. I can stand against him. I should not say, oh, he's my boss, he's my. No, I should stand because it's against my self respect, right? It's against my principle. So that time you should use your discerning. There is a story of frog. Have you heard that story?
Something like unconstitutional also, yeah.
The frog there is this jumping frog, and the scientists are doing this experiment where they try to test what is the capacity of the frog that it can tolerate heat, right? And so they put the frog on the in the bowl which is filled with water, and then they put that bowl on the gas, and it's heating. So the frog is an aquatic animal, right? It can tolerate. So it tolerates. And eventually the water boils and the frog dies. Now the frog could have jumped, right? It has the capacity to jump, but it did not use that capacity of jumping, and it just tolerated. So you don't want to tolerate to the extent that you die in that process, right? So you want to use your discerning capacity, your discerning ability. आपको देखना है कि क्या मुझे सहन करना है और क्या नहीं सहन करना है. And the easiest way, like I said, कि अगर किसी का संस्कार है जो आप बदल नहीं सकते हो, you cannot change that person, right? It's only, the knowledge is only about self transformation. मैं आपको बदल नहीं सकती हूँ, तो आपका कोई संस्कार है, मुझे तकलीफ हो रही है, लेकिन आई हैव टू टॉलरेट दैट संस्कार. So that's where I think it comes into picture, like how you know what to tolerate. But even in relationships, sometimes if it goes your again, it's only about self-respect. I feel that's the clearest distinction I can make. I feel that if it is something to do with my self-respect, even within a relationship, then it's okay to leave the relationship. You know, yeah, that's what I feel. But I also, you know, what suits me might not suit you. What might be right for me might not be right for you. And the only way you would know what is right for you is through your connection with the Supreme. Because you will get the right touching, you will get the right answer, what you should do in this scene, scenario, you know, how you should behave or how you should act. So yeah, stay connected with the seed, I will say, you know, and the answers will come. Okay. Okay, anyone else? So if anyone wants to ask a question, you can also raise your hand, you know, or type it in the chat box, or we can unmute you all, whatever. Okay, Suresh Bhai has a question, so we can unmute him.
Because from one of your sessions, I just learned that if I change the way I look at things, then the things start changing also. So
Yeah,
maybe, and that was one thing which was excellent. And we are all grateful to the Brahma Kumaris and to the team. You have done so much for us, so many valuable benefits we are getting from you. I can't miss this opportunity to say thanks to you all and the whole team. And there was another small story about a snake who used to bite everybody. So he was advised, don't bite. So he stopped biting and people started trampling on him. So he said, don't, what have you done? He says, don't. At least if you don't bite, at least hiss. So we have to protect ourselves also in life by showing the people that there is enough of tolerance. Please take care. So that hissing and biting, that distinguishing, that's all.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of stories. There is the story about Buddha also, right? Where a man comes and just starts telling all bad things to him. And it's very disrespectful, it's very insulting. But Buddha is sitting quietly. And then he goes close to his ear and he says, are you listening what I'm saying? And Buddha gently says that you gave me whatever you had, but none of this is useful to me. So I decided not to take it. You know? It's something like somebody gives you a rotten mango. Are you going to take it? No, it's not useful to you. So if somebody is angry with you and out of anger they say something to you, then you understand that this is not useful to me. I'm not going to take it. You know, like hear but don't hear and see but don't see. That kind of attitude you need sometimes. You know, don't care kind of attitude that, okay, they're saying that they're under influence of anger or they are under influence of greed, you know. And when somebody is under influence, right, किसी ने अगर पिया है नशा किया है तो आप उसको और थोड़ी ना धक्का दोगे. इज ऑलरेडी वो खुद ही हिल रहा है, वो खुद ही फ्लक्चुएट हो रहा है, आप उसको संभालोगे, राइट? So if somebody is under the influence of the vices, then you want to be merciful, right? um, and you want to just give good wishes and good thoughts to that soul, that may the intellect change or may the soul realize what they're doing, what they're saying, right? And then eventually they will change. Yeah. So there are a lot of examples, but again, every individual's story is so different. You know, what applies to me might not apply to you. But the easiest way to know what works is when you have clarity of your intellect, you won't have confusion to make the choice. You will understand instantly what you need to do. And that can come only through remembrance, right? Only through the power of yoga. Yeah. Okay. Others are very content. Okay. All right. So should we end with the meditation? So tomorrow is our last lesson, and tomorrow we will look at how we can bring spirituality in motion, right? how we can have a lifestyle which is very spiritual. Very practical tips and practical methods we will see tomorrow. Okay. So let's remember Baba. Om Shanti. As I sit straight, relaxed, comfortable, gently breathing in and breathing out. And as I breathe in the peace which is present in the air. And I release any tension, any worry that I might have within me. As I begin to focus my attention to my breathing, I emerge the awareness of being an eternal light energy. When everything is rhythmic in nature, then there is harmony. And so I ask myself, what is the quality of my thoughts? What is the speed of my thoughts? Are they very fast? Are they very slow? And gently my mind becomes quiet and my thoughts slow down. The speed is enough that I can catch my thoughts, I can observe my thoughts, I can understand the quality of my thoughts. And with a positive attitude, I create one powerful thought for myself. I see myself as the most loving and kind person. I see myself free from the burden of past. I am light and I am free. And I have come to the understanding that I have a very special role to play on the planet, especially during these times when the world is in need of power, peace, and happiness. I know that I have a connection with the seed. And so I sit under the tree of humanity, very close to the seed in the roots. And I create powerful thoughts, thoughts that will bring the energy of peace and love and harmony as nourishment to the entire tree. In this moment, I see myself as God's helper. I am instrument that He is using to establish new world. I see myself as an image that supports the entire tree of humanity by simply reawakening my original form, my original nature. And the more I stabilize myself in this pure consciousness of being peaceful, being loving, being cooperative. In every of those moments, I accumulate many blessings. My old accounts settle. And because I am close to the seed, I don't need to ask for the powers that I need from anyone else. I can charge my battery whenever I want by simply staying as close as I can to the seed. I am connected to everyone, and everyone is connected to me through the seed. And I will be busy in my day-to-day routine soon. But I am full of gratitude to know that I can be useful in this world transformation, the task of world establishment. And with these feelings of gratitude, I gently return back to the consciousness of the present time. Om Shanti.